The late afternoon light poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Regency Crown Hotel, gilding every marble surface with a golden sheen. Outside, the city thrummed with a rhythm all its own. Taxi horns in the distance, the soft whoosh of revolving doors as guests entered with polished suitcases, the faint hum of conversation from the lobby cafe. This was the kind of place where time seemed to slow down just enough for wealth to breathe easily. It was elegance wrapped in quiet, calculated opulence, and into that world stepped Amara Lewis. 33, every inch of her radiating the calm authority of someone who built empires brick by brick. Her tailored charcoal gray travel suit fit her like it had been sculpted on her frame, the subtle glint of a platinum watch peeking from beneath her cuff. A silk scarf, deep cobalt with fine gold edging, framed her face. Sharp cheekbones, warm brown skin, eyes that missed nothing. She rolled behind her a single piece of luggage, a glossy black carry-on, and held a leather portfolio in her left hand. No one in that lobby knew her. Or rather, no one in that lobby realized who she was. To them, she was just another traveler. A woman arriving alone, understated yet elegant. They didn't know that she had flown in from London that morning, after an all-night strategy session with her executive team. They didn't know that the hotel they were standing in, the one whose chandelier glittered above their heads, was part of her empire. The Cat Regency Crown wasn't just another property in her portfolio. It was one of the first she'd ever acquired, a cornerstone of her hospitality group, and one she had always treated as a jewel. But Amara wasn't here to be treated like royalty. She was here for a surprise inspection, the kind of visit that stripped away staged smiles and forced the truth into the light. She believed in walking her properties like any other guest, eyes open to the smallest details, the way the bellhop greeted you, the crispness of the linens, the tone in a receptionist's voice. She stepped into the center of the lobby and paused for just a moment, letting her gaze sweep across the space. The chandelier above, a cascade of crystal tears, caught the light and fractured it across the marble floor. To her left, a pianist's fingers danced across ivory keys, the melody smooth and unobtrusive. Guests sipped champagne in low armchairs, flipping through magazines they'd never read at home. Amara's mind cataloged everything in seconds. The arrangement of fresh flowers at the reception desk was off balance, a pale blush arrangement that clashed with the lobby's warmer tones. The bellhops, though neatly dressed, leaned on their carts as though the day had already drained them. And behind the counter, the front desk clerk's eyes slid over her with something unreadable, something that would reveal itself soon enough. A part of her, the part that had fought for every inch of her career, had learned to recognize certain looks. The ones that measured you, tallied you up and decided what box to put you in before you spoke a word. It had happened in boardrooms, at charity galas, even in the first-class cabin of planes she could have bought outright. She had long ago stopped being surprised. Still, Amara moved forward, her heels clicking softly on marble, the polished sound swallowed by the lobby's plush edges. She wasn't here to prove anything, not yet. She approached the front desk with a measured smile, her portfolio balanced lightly in her hand. The clerk glanced up, and in that instant, the air shifted. The clerk's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. It was the kind of expression that pretended to be helpful but carried an undertone, the quiet assumption that you didn't quite belong. "Good afternoon," Amara began, her voice even and warm. "I'm here to check in. Lewis, Amara." The clerk's fingers hovered over the keyboard, but instead of searching, his gaze swept over her once more, from the shine of her polished heels to the silk scarf at her neck, as if weighing the details against some mental picture of a typical guest. After a slow beat, he leaned forward slightly. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, his tone wrapped in polite finality. "The lobby is for guests only." Amara's brows lifted almost imperceptibly. "I am a guest." He glanced at the screen again, or pretended to, before giving a small shake of his head. "Unfortunately, we're fully booked tonight, but..." He hesitated, as if trying to soften what came next. "There's a place across the street you might find more suitable." The words were like a smudge on polished glass. Subtle, but impossible to ignore. Amara felt them settle in the air, invisible to some, painfully sharp to others. A few guests nearby turned their heads. She caught a pair of women in evening dresses exchanging curious looks, and a businessman at the cafe subtly pausing mid-sip. It wasn't the first time she'd been told she was in the wrong place, but it still pressed at the edges of her patience. Without a word, Amara reached into her portfolio and produced her reservation confirmation. Crisp paper, printed clearly, her name in bold. She slid it across the counter with deliberate calm. The clerk's mouth tightened. Before he could respond, a man in a navy suit approached. The lobby manager, his name tag catching the chandelier's light. Mid-40s, neatly combed hair, the kind of posture that suggested authority had become habit. "Is there a problem here?" he asked the clerk, though his eyes were fixed on Amara. "She's insisting she has a booking," the clerk replied, tone laced with a faint, unnecessary emphasis on she. The manager took the paper, glanced at it, then back at her. "This isn't the kind of place you're looking for," he said, each word slow, measured, deliberate. The air in the lobby seemed to thin. Amara held his gaze. "And what kind of place is that exactly?" The question landed like a stone dropped into still water. The manager's lips parted, but instead of answering, he gave a small dismissive wave to security standing near the entrance. It happened in moments. The murmur of nearby guests, the quick exchange of glances between staff, the soft shuffle of footsteps as two uniformed guards began to move toward her. She could feel eyes on her from every angle, the quiet thrill of an unfolding scene that didn't yet have an ending. In that instant, Amara's mind went still. She had walked into boardrooms where billion-dollar deals were on the table and felt less hostility than this. This was personal. And yet, not personal at all. It was a script she had seen too many times before, rehearsed by people who thought they were improvising. She picked up her portfolio, her movements measured and precise, but she wasn't leaving, not yet. The hum of conversation in the lobby dimmed to a curious hush as the security guards approached. The polished marble floor reflected their movements, their black shoes moving in unison, each step echoing faintly under the high chandeliered ceiling. Guests leaned ever so slightly in their seats, pretending to sip their drinks while angling for a better view. The lobby manager's voice carried just enough to be heard by anyone nearby. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step outside." Amara stood still, her portfolio resting against her thigh. "I have a reservation," she said again, her voice steady, unwavering. But the manager wasn't listening. Or perhaps he had decided the conversation was over. "You're causing a disturbance," he announced, the words sharp, cutting through the space like a slap. It was a tactic as old as it was effective. Name the behavior before it happens. Plant the seed that the person is in the wrong. Guests shifted uncomfortably, caught between believing him and questioning why a woman in a perfectly tailored suit would be a threat to the quiet sanctity of a luxury hotel lobby. One of the security guards, broad-shouldered and impassive, stopped at her side. "Ma'am, this way please." Amara's gaze moved across the lobby. The pianist's fingers had stilled on the keys, mid-note. A young couple near the bar glanced at each other, the woman's brows knitting in quiet disapproval. Two guests pulled out their phones, their camera lenses catching the gleam of the marble and the uncomfortable stillness of the scene. Her luggage, still untouched, sat by the entrance like an afterthought, a silent testament to the fact that she had never been given the dignity of being welcomed. She felt the gentle but unmistakable pressure of the guard's hand guiding her toward the revolving doors. She didn't resist, but every step she took was deliberate, her back straight, her chin lifted. She had learned long ago that dignity was a shield, and she would not let theirs pierce it. The revolving door's glass panels caught the last blush of sunset as she was escorted outside. The evening air was cooler than she expected, brushing against her face like a quiet reminder of the city beyond. For a moment, she stood on the sidewalk, the hotel's name gleaming in brass letters above her, the warm light spilling from the lobby behind her. She didn't speak. She didn't shout. She didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her flustered. But in the stillness of her expression, there was a quiet promise. This was not over. Inside, she could feel the eyes still watching through the glass. Some with pity, some with embarrassment. A few with the dawning realization that they had just witnessed something deeply wrong. 2 minutes, she thought. That's all it would take. The city's evening air carried the faint scent of roasted chestnuts from a vendor down the block, but Amara barely registered it. She stood on the sidewalk, eyes fixed on the golden-lit lobby behind the glass. 2 minutes. That's all she had promised herself. She turned slightly, scanning the street, and there they were. James Whitaker and Alina Ortiz, two of her most trusted corporate executives. Both had been in the city for separate meetings that day and, by a stroke of timing that almost felt scripted, had been just a few blocks away. James, tall and broad with salt and pepper hair, was already striding toward her with a knowing look. Lena, mid-30s with sharp eyes and a tailored cream blazer, carried the kind of presence that made people instinctively clear a path. What happened? Lena's voice was low but brimming with contained fire. Amara's answer was simple. We're going inside. Without another word, the three of them moved as a unit toward the revolving doors. Inside the lobby, heads turned almost instantly. The same guests who had watched her be escorted out now watched her return, this time flanked by two figures whose very body language declared authority. The security guards at the door hesitated, caught between their last order and the shift in energy radiating toward them. James's steady, cold stare made them step aside without a word. Amara's heels struck the marble again, the sound sharper this time, each click a deliberate announcement of her presence. She walked straight to the front desk, bypassing the hushed whispers that seemed to swell around her. The pianist, perhaps sensing something momentous, didn't resume playing. The manager stood frozen behind the counter, the reservation confirmation still sitting there, untouched. His earlier confidence had drained away, replaced by a flicker of confusion. Amara set her leather portfolio down on the counter with quiet precision, her hand resting on it for just a moment. Then, in a voice that carried without being raised, she said, "I am Amara Lewis. I own the Regency crown." The room inhaled all at once. She didn't blink. "And you have exactly 30 seconds to gather your things." The words were not loud, but they rang through the lobby with the weight of finality. A ripple of shock passed through the onlookers. The manager's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, as if searching for a lifeline in air that had suddenly grown too thin. James and Lena flanked her like sentinels, silent and steady. Somewhere near the bar, a guest's hand shot to their phone, recording every moment. The manager stammered, "Ms. Lewis, But she lifted her hand, stopping him mid-sentence. Her eyes didn't waver. The space between them was thick with the reality of what he had done, and the irrevocable truth of who he had done it to. The lobby felt different now, as if the very air had shifted sides. Moments ago the power had rested behind the desk, now it radiated from the woman standing in front of it. Amara didn't raise her voice, but every syllable carried. "Effective immediately," she said, "the on-duty management team is relieved of their positions." There was a stunned stillness, the kind that makes people forget to breathe. The clerk beside the manager blinked rapidly, his hands hovering uselessly over the keyboard. The manager's complexion drained to an almost ashen gray. "Ms. Lewis, please, there's been a misunderstanding." "There's been no misunderstanding," she cut in, her tone still calm, almost surgical in its precision. "I walked into my own hotel, with a valid reservation, and was told I did not belong here. I was escorted out without so much as an apology. You and your staff have just demonstrated to me, and to everyone here, exactly how you treat people when you think no one important is watching." Her words landed like stones on still water, each one sending ripples through the room. Guests shifted in their seats. Some exchanged glances heavy with agreement. Near the bar, a quiet clap broke out, hesitant at first, then echoed by another, and another. James stepped forward, his presence reinforcing her authority. "HR will contact you within 24 hours to collect your statements and begin a full investigation," he told the manager and clerk, his voice brisk, professional, and without pity. Lena, meanwhile, had already pulled out her tablet, tapping rapidly. "Temporary replacements will be in place by morning," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else, but loud enough that the staff heard. The clerk looked down at the counter, avoiding her gaze. The manager opened his mouth again, perhaps searching for words that might reverse the irreversible. but Amara's steady stare silenced him. "You have 30 seconds, she repeated softly. The seconds ticked away. The manager finally gathered his clipboard and name tag with trembling fingers, the sound of the class breaking louder than it should have been in the hushed space. The clerk followed, face flushed, shoulders hunched. They walked toward the staff door, eyes fixed on the floor, while the guests' gazes followed them like a slow, silent procession. Somewhere, a phone camera caught the moment the door swung shut behind them. Amara exhaled quietly, then turned her attention back to the lobby. "For those of you who witnessed this," she said, her voice warm again, "I hope you understand this is not the culture we stand for. You are my guests, every single one of you, and you are welcome here." There was no applause this time, only a heavy, respectful silence. It was as if the building itself understood that a line had been drawn. The culture shift. Weeks later, the Watcher Regency Crown lobby looked almost the same as the night Amara had been humiliated. The same chandelier dripping crystal light across the marble floor, the same grand piano in the corner, the same scent of fresh lilies in the air. But for anyone who had been there that evening, it felt different now. The staff lining the reception desk were new, a mix of ages, backgrounds, and faces that reflected the city beyond the glass doors. Their uniforms were crisp, but their posture was warmer, their smiles unforced. Behind them, the once muted energy of the hotel had shifted into something open, welcoming. Amara stood at the center of the lobby, this time not as an unrecognized guest, but as the host. Dozens of employees gathered in a semi-circle before her, from housekeepers to bellhops to the new management team. Her cobalt scarf hung loose today over a cream blouse, and though her heels still clicked softly on marble, the sound carried a lighter note. She didn't stand behind a podium, she didn't need to. "The night I came here last," she began, her voice carrying naturally, "I was told I didn't belong in this space. I was told, in not so many words, that I should go somewhere else, and I want to be clear, that is never going to happen here again." Her gaze swept across the faces in front of her. Some nodded slowly, others held her eyes with quiet conviction. "When I started in this industry," she continued, "I walked into places where people decided who I was before I said a single word. Sometimes it was my age, sometimes it was my gender. Too often, it was my skin. Every time I made a choice. To walk forward anyway. Not to prove myself to them, but to prove to myself that I could take spaces that told me I didn't belong, and make them mine." There was no applause yet, just a deep, attentive silence. "This hotel is part of my legacy," she said, "and from this moment forward, it will stand for something greater than polished marble and crystal chandeliers. It will stand for welcome, for dignity, for the belief that every guest, whether they arrive in designer luggage or a worn backpack, deserves to be seen, respected, and valued." Her eyes softened. "And if you ever forget that, remember the night your owner was thrown out of her own hotel. Remember how quickly it can happen when we stop seeing each other as human first." This time, the applause came slowly, then grew, steady and heartfelt, until it filled the lobby like the swell of a symphony. Later, as she stood by the grand windows looking out at the city, Amara caught sight of her reflection in the glass. Behind her, the staff moved through the lobby with an ease she hadn't seen before. Guests laughed quietly over coffee. The pianist played a warm, lilting tune. The hotel wasn't perfect, it never would be. But the culture had shifted, and with it, the heartbeat of the place. And that, she thought, was worth more than the marble or the chandeliers ever could be.